Right, Mr. Jethmalani, I'll just start with my first question.
Louder than that as well?
Yeah, let me just ask you my first question, Mr. Jethmalani. I'll just repeat it. Nate Anderson, the founder of Hindenburg,
Yes.
says his job has taken a toll on him since it's, and I quote, rather intense and at times all-encompassing. Does that sound even remotely plausible for somebody wanting to quit his job?
But frankly speaking, I mean, I don't know how old Mr. Anderson is, but the fact of the matter is that, he's not had some sterling results. I think his claim to fame really rests on the Adani, hit job which he was part of. I don't think he's done many other, any other great serious works of note or businesses of note. So he essentially is a research analyst. I mean, if he's, I really don't know what is his exact line of business. He's a research analyst who provides reports and gives it to people, or he's hired by people who need to bear hammer a few shares for profiteering. In this case, of course, he became a little larger than life because he took on, one of the biggest industrialists in India, and served for a couple of days, caused serious economic turbulence in the country.
This is the man, Nate Anderson, who had wiped out more than $150 billion in the value of the Adani Group shares at their lowest point. $150 billion. A lot of that is money of small-time investors, men and women who put in their money, hard-earned savings, and that vanishes. And now this man, Nate Anderson, says, I'm off, I'm done. How does one ensure accountability?
But one assure the SEBI is on the job. As far as India is concerned, SEBI is on the job. The problem is that this man doesn't live in India, right? He's presumably a U.S. national. Now, if he's a U.S. national, right, all the best we can do is seek the cooperation of the government. But the last government, the democratic deep state, as we called it, were hand in glove with this man through the Soros connection. Soros is the biggest financial contributor to the coffers of the Democratic Party and has a overwhelming say in their policies, particularly the economic policies. Now, Soros is known for his anti-India and particularly the anti-PM Modi government stand. So there's not much you can do except now hope that and I suspect that the Trump administration may already have started some kind of probe which led to this man winding up his company. Having said that, whatever aid we can get from the Trump administration, which will be a lot more friendlier to the Indian government on this issue as well, right? We should undoubtedly invoke that help, right? And see that this man is brought to justice along with all the others whom he connived with. But again, Nate Anderson and Hindenburg are a very small cog in that sinister machine which caused that $150 billion loss to the Adani Group and wrecked our stock markets and ruined a lot of retail investors.
I'll come to that, Mr. Jethmalani.
There's a deeper story, right?
I'll come
and
to
through
that.
Nate Anderson, the purpose should be to get to the... Yeah.
No, I will come to that. That's going to be, I'm just going through. Now, I'm just going to rephrase my first or second question to you to sort of look at the sequence of events or a potential link. Biden honored the outgoing US President George Soros recently. Soros has an alleged link with Hindenburg, and both Soros and the deep state are reportedly targeting us or targeting India. Is there a sense that Nate Anderson of Hindenburg has figured out that with the Trump administration coming into power, his game is basically over?
Yes, I mean, I don't... look, Soros has been an old adversary, right? And has done everything to oppose the Republican Party, right? So, the linchpin in all this really is Soros himself, right? I mean, the Democratic Party has acted almost at his bidding because you've seen what President Biden did. I mean, President Biden, post his loss in the elections, post the Democratic Party's loss in the elections and, the congressional elections, the seats that came up for grabs at the same time. Trump now has the majority in both houses, right?
Yeah.
After that, he gave George Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is one of the highest civic awards in the United States. So, this is a network. This is a network. And of course, you're really concerned with the stock market clash of Adani, but the crash of Adani's. But also, don't forget the Bangladesh coup.
Yeah.
I hold the Democratic deep state and Soros, right, who has made a visit and met Mohammad Yunus, right, shortly after the coup that took place in that country.
Yes.
Right, and he's had all links with him. One of the first people who financed Mohammad Yunus, right, was none other than George Soros.
There have, after the initial Hindenburg report, there have been other cases recently filed against the Adani group. When you spoke last with me some time back, you said that there was the deep state at work, and you're referring to that now in the context of Bangladesh. For the benefit of our viewers, what is the...
Well, the deep state is a concept which denotes, right, where the real power lies, military industrial complex. Now, the Democratic Party has its own, it has its own, it appoints, it has people who implement its policies. But the financiers of the Democratic Party seem to have set their agenda. And as I said, the deep state finances, right? And accordingly, their agenda, because of those finances, is really set by George Soros. George Soros has an overwhelming influence, and you can see that both not only in two big events that have happened over here. India has been an ally in Quad. And notwithstanding that, right, there have been two fatal blows, near fatal blows. We've recovered, of course, because we've had the resilience, right? One designed at our economic vulnerability, right, through the Adani group, and the other is in our neighborhood, replacing a highly unfriendly neighbor with replacing a highly friendly neighbor with an extremely unfriendly one.
Yeah.
And of course, then to sustain that coup, there's been a sort of fomenting of anti-Hindu sentiment there. Right? Now, both these, the Democratic Party is not distant from. Let me tell you, Mohammad Yunus has been at the center of an investigation by Sheikh Hasina's government, right? And Hillary has been Mohammad Yunus's biggest supporter in that entire investigation, and rallied senior leaders from the world over to Mohammad Yunus's cause when he was facing investigation. Incidentally, Sheikh Hasina's government had a conviction against Mohammad Yunus as well. And if you look at the timelines, right, he was facing a trial for very serious defrauding in Bangladesh under the Sheikh Hasina government. And that's when the trial was about to start. A date was fixed. 2 weeks later, that government fell.
Right.
So the Democratic deep state is a state which actually, it's not just the senators and the president, etc. It's the financiers and the whole ecosystem which backs that party and sets its agenda.
Mr. Jethmalani, what I find bizarre is in the letter that this Nate Anderson wrote, and he says the blasé manner in which it is all done, right? He says, and I quote, "There is not one specific thing, no particular threat, no health issue, no big personal issue. The intensity and focus has come at the cost of missing a lot of the rest of the world and the people I care about." So this man impacts lakhs of people, kills $150 billion of the value of a massive company, impacts investor wealth, and now says that he cannot handle intensity. I mean, what sort of person are we dealing with over here?
Yeah, I mean, look, we are dealing with somebody who profited, made money, realizes his time is up, that he may well face investigations by an incoming government, and therefore he's bound up his company and, put the white flag up and hopes that by winding up his company, he won't face any investigation and prosecution.
Mr. Jethmalani, one final question. He describes in that same letter his team, who he is now apparently helping to find jobs. He describes those people as, quote, ruthless assassins capable of world-class work. So essentially, this is a man who blatantly seems to suggest that he and his team of so-called assassins went about tripping up businesses, companies, in a move that we now realize has created monstrous uncertainty. And he says this all in this blasé manner. Again, when it comes to short selling, right, beyond the United States, should there not be international legislation against short sellers?
Yeah, I mean, short sellers are people basically who, there are some cases where, there may be a Ponzi scheme, right? But short sellers, by and large, are not wealth creators, they are wealth destroyers. So I think there's a strong case for controlling short selling, and I think India should start introducing this because, I think that there should be information put out by our regulatory agencies regarding companies. There should be more information so that the investing public knows what is, a naked short sell and what is a
Mr. Jethmalani, one or two more questions.
A reasoned and justified short sell.
Sure. One or two more questions. Where does this leave the opposition? I mean, we have a democracy, a parliament where there's work supposed to be done. But this one issue of Hindenburg has driven parliament, it just seemed irrational at times. And now this man has gone off, has gone off into the sunset. So what does this say about, the goal of the opposition in sort of backing this man and what he had to say?
Well, I'll tell you something, Vishnu, that Nate Anderson and Hindenburg, right, were only tools, right? They were used. They were used to prepare a report, which was then given a lot of publicity and fanfare. But make no mistake, the masterminds and those who used Hindenburg are very much there. And that is George Soros, right?
Right.
Please make no mistake about it that the evil genius and the man, the person who played the most sinister role in all that's happened anti-India is George Soros, right? Aided, right? This is a very lowly person, Mr. Nate Anderson.
Right.
But he's been entire democratic deep state has helped him achieve almost achieve his intended aim of destabilizing India, both in its neighborhood and economically.
All right, we'll leave it over there, Mr.
So,
Jethmalani.
as far as the local people, you're coming to your question, as far as the local protagonists of this entire sordid episode is concerned, right? So long as Soros has room to make trouble, right, they will continue to sing his song. But Soros himself, I have no doubt, will find his wings seriously clipped. Already, those who screamed hoarse about Hindenburg and Adani, right, have gone muted. But until Soros is finally given his just deserts, these people will continue to hang on to his coattails. It's a matter of time before they themselves run away from these sort of activities, because it's not them. They're only the local agents carrying out the instructions of their overseas masters. But they will flee from this with their tail between their legs, and you will find that there will not be much more said about the Hindenburg episode.
All right, we'll see what happens, Mr. Jethmalani. Thanks very much for joining us and sharing your views on Nate Anderson and Hindenburg effectively disappearing. We'll take a short break at this stage, come back with a lot more.